The audio you're about to hear was recorded in Anchor. Learn more at anchor.fm.
Yo, it's Ed, your favorite ball bag MMA analyst at frontproofmedia.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Carbazel and at the blogboard jungle.com. Coming at you a little bit late with some aftermath reactions for Mayweather McGregor from Saturday. Lots to talk about. It's Tuesday night. Of course, I'm recording this after Tuesday Night Contender Series. It was the final one of the first season. Really great fights, so we got to talk about that. And I got some RIZIN news for you. And as far as the Maymax stuff is concerned, that's a nice interview I got in with Mr. Hector Franco, who is the boxing encyclopedia over at frontproofmedia.com. So let's get it going. Alright, so obviously I just said we just finished watching the final episode of Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. First of all, I've said it every Tuesday night, I love the show. I can't wait for them to bring it back. Obviously they're stopping it because the new season of The Ultimate Fighter starts tomorrow with the ladies flyweight division. But tonight they had so Dana White gave out 3 contracts, and one of them, well, the fourth, I guess, was he said it's not a contract, but they're going to put Bevon Lewis in the he's a 185 or middleweight. He got a second round knockout over Elias Urbina, and round knockout, and he said they wanted to work with him and get him in the UFC's developmental league. I didn't know they had a developmental league. Apparently this was news to a lot of folks. I guess he let it slip. I don't know if this is something new. Never heard of it. But because as far as I knew, the Ultimate Fighter was their developmental league, or maybe even all these regional promotions on their Fight Pass. On the Fight Pass app. I thought that's where they're getting their talent from, but, lo and behold, there's a developmental league. So, anyway, but 3 contracts went out. Alan Crowder, who's a heavyweight, he got a 3rd round TKO over his opponent. And then Lauren Mueller, who she won by unanimous decision, but she also came in on short notice. So, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. I said that to you guys if you listen to Anchor. That's why I'm coming at you with the Maymax stuff late. And then Matt Frivola, the Steamroller. He's part of Sarah Longo fight team out of New York, and he got his round 2 arm triangle finish. His opponent was tough too. Luke Flores. Tough fight, man. Flores had his chin up. He got dropped a few times, but he never looked too concerned until he got caught in that submission, obviously. But he was fighting well. It was a good fight. Really good fights tonight on Tuesday Night Contender Series. Excuse me. So that was it. I mean, they gave out a lot of contracts. I can't wait for the second season. I would imagine they're going to do Dana White Contender Series Season 2 once The Ultimate Fighter is finished. It's a smart move to not conflict, although it's Tuesday and Wednesday, but they use the same space, they use the same facility. So I would think that's why they're stopping right when Ultimate Fighter starts. And definitely watch that. I'll probably keep up recording these rather than recording the reaction pieces on Tuesday nights. I'll do them Wednesday nights after The Ultimate Fighter, since this is a really interesting season with the flyweights. Some familiar names are there. Roxanne Modafferi, I believe, is back on there. Rachel Ostovich of Invicta. If you've seen her fight, she dresses like Wonder Woman. Superfly. Great to look at, both in and out of action, because she's fine. Oh man, she's fine. Anyway, what else? And then, I also said I had some RIZIN news for you, so let me get to that. Alright, so off to Japan, October 15th, RIZIN is holding the RIZIN World Grand Prix for 2017. So there's a couple of guys on there. The bracket, Frontproof Media, and on my own Twitter handle, we tweeted the bracket out. And one fighter in particular, Shintaro Ishiwatari and Kyoji Horiguchi, from you guys probably know from the UFC. When he let his contract expire, he went over to RIZIN and he won his first round for the Grand Prix. And they actually fought each other back in 2013. So Ishiwatari is actually hoping to run into Horiguchi again. I'm sorry, messing up these names, but anyway. So that event goes on in October. It's the tournament. So Ishiwatari is if he gets through his match, he's likely to get some chance to get some redemption over his loss from 2013 when he fought Horiguchi over at the Vale Tudo, Japan. He lost in the final round, 41 seconds into the final round. So he really wants to get, he's been studying him. A press release from RIZIN sent over to us. I'm going to read off a quote from Ishiwatari. So this is Ishiwatari on Horiguchi. I've been watching his fights after I lost. I study off of his fights to make myself a better fighter. Most fighters have a time period when you hit a wall and stop improving, a time where you struggle. But he just continues to evolve like simple math. His fight IQ is high, his overall skill levels are high, and there's a lot to learn from him. So he's giving him a lot of respect, but he's also, if he wins his fight in October, then he's probably going to look to have his bracket matched up so that he fights and gets his rematch against Horiguchi. His opponent for the October 15th is Ahmed Muskayev. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. It's the opening round for the Grand Prix on October 15th. It's in Japan at the Fukuoka Marinese Arena. These are all Japanese words, folks, so please don't make fun of me for ruining it. But you can watch it over on obviously you can watch it on online. Actually, Fight TV, it's that Fight app. They do a lot of boxing, pro wrestling, and MMA. You can catch it there. So, also on that is the press release has there's a grappling match between Kazushi Sakuraba and Dan Henderson, and there's a women's atomweight Grand Prix. The opening rounds for that is also on that. And there's a lot of well-known atomweight female fighters. Andy Nguyen from King of the Cage. I think she just lost her title, but I mean, this is a bigger stage that she's going to be fighting on, so I don't think it's any skin off her back. It's going to be good. Definitely worth watching. People call RIZIN the new Pride. I guess I agree with that, considering it's the same president. But yeah, that's a lot to look forward to for MMA in Japan. It looks like they're rebuilding it well over there. So anyway, so I got sick right after the Mayweather-McGregor fight on Saturday, late Saturday into Sunday morning. We were supposed to do me and Hector Franco from Frontproof Media, we're going to do a aftermath, like a recap reaction piece. So I apologize, this is coming to you a couple of days late, but we still got it in for you. It's really interesting. Again, I like discussing, having the discussion about boxing and mixed martial arts with the guys over at Frontproof Media is always done well, because we actually address it, all the bickering on social media. It's not boxing versus MMA. It's combat sports as a whole. And not for nothing, the event was good for combat sports as a whole. So this is me and Hector Franco's recap of the event. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. Hello.
Hey, brother.
What's up, Hector?
Nothing much, man. Just here on a Tuesday, a rainy Tuesday over here in Florida, ready to kind of talk about what we saw on Saturday night.
Yeah, man. It's actually raining pretty hard here too. So while we talk Mayweather McGregor, I'm actually watching the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series finale. So if I seem distracted, it's because some fire is happening. It's too bad you don't have Fight Pass.
I know. When I purchased the UFC pay-per-view in May 13th, I forgot Joanna. I can't pronounce her last name correctly.
Me neither. Just call her Joanna Champion.
Joanna Champion. She defended her title on that night. It was my birthday night, and I had Fight Pass for that month, and I'll probably get that in the future. It seems to be, if you're a combat sports fan, just like if you're a wrestling fan, and you got that WWE Network, Fight Pass is just as good.
Yeah, man, I've had it for a year. I definitely like it. So, and this Tuesday night Contender series, man, it would have been nicer to have a Frontproof Media partner watching this stuff with me, because these fights have been great. I mean, these chicks are fighting right now. Weller versus Velasco. It's a second round, and it looks like Weller's about to win. And it's a great fight. But anyway, let's get to the topic at hand, man. I know we talked about doing this immediately after Mayweather-McGregor, but I got sick because I live in New Jersey and the weather changes too frequently around here. So I'm mostly cleared up. But what'd you think, man? You're the boxing side. I'm the MMA side. So let's have it.
You know what? I got to be honest. I think that, for anybody that's read any of my stuff, at Frontproof Media, I was very, apathetic towards the fight. I will say that, as an event, the whole event that night, I thought that, the pay-per-view was okay. I thought that the performance of the night was probably on the undercard when Badu Jack stopped Nathan Cleverly to win one of the light heavyweight titles. I thought he was the best fighter on the show. But, as far as the main event, I will admit, once they started doing the fighter introductions and then you saw both guys in the ring and you saw them getting instructions by the referee, and I was at a fight party, people were excited, and, I think that moment right there was what was important about that night, was that it brought people together to come and watch a boxing match, and I think that was the positive thing. As far as the fight itself, I think that what we saw is kind of what I expected. I think we saw a 40-year-old Floyd Mayweather, and then we saw Conor McGregor, a guy who is a very experienced mixed martial artist, but an inexperienced just professional boxer. And, eventually he got tired and he got worn down. But, I wasn't necessarily impressed by either guy, to be honest. It just seemed like, McGregor, to me, I think an article came out. I'm not sure who wrote it, but I remember you put it on our channel, Ed, about McGregor landing more punches on any opponent than I think Mayweather's last 9, according to CompuBox. And that was great to see that. The first round, I think, was, besides maybe the 10th round, is probably the most exciting of the fight because, for a lot of people who kind of, I think, contributed to the hype of the fight by saying that Mayweather was just going to destroy him and McGregor wasn't going to land a punch. Shout out to Max Kellerman. They were wrong. And I think that McGregor did, do some things. I think that if he, and we spoke about this months before, that I thought that if he was serious, he should have taken some other fights, because I noticed that with his stance, his punches didn't have a lot of they didn't have a lot behind them. Even when he landed an uppercut to kind of counter Floyd's pull counter move, it brought Floyd's head up, but it didn't really hurt him, if that makes sense. And especially when, he's a much bigger guy. And I think also his upper body movement, wasn't really there. Mayweather was, and this might piss off a lot of boxing fans. I thought he was kind of one-dimensional. He was coming forward. He didn't use his left hook a lot, didn't use his jab a lot. He kind of resorted to just trying to land the right hand. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it worked. As far as the stoppage, I think McGregor, when he gets tired, he does things like he, kind of, at one point in the beginning of the 10th, I think he kind of moved against the ropes with his arms down, and he kind of, moves backwards like he's going to fall. And I think he would have eventually fell, so I think maybe the referee, Robert Byrd, should have at least, let it get to the point that he got knocked down. I mean, you had $10,000, $50,000 seats, $100 pay-per-view. I was at least hoping for that. But, just like you wrote, the boxer won the boxing match. And we should probably move on. We can move on. That was fun. It was okay for what it was. But I honestly, was thinking that night, and I told everybody there, I would have rather have seen Conor McGregor fight Tony Ferguson.
Oh, definitely.
In that octagon, and then or maybe just make it a ring, like in Pride, fight in a ring, and then Floyd come out and fight, one of the top welterweights. I would have, if they did a joint, some kind of joint sporting event, I think that would have been way better than Mayweather-McGregor was. Oh yeah,
I mean, Scott Coker goes for the joint thing. Just, it's off topic, but have you ever watched the Dynamite shows with Bellator? That's what his goal is, to just make like a big combat sports extravaganza. It's kickboxing and MMA, and there's a ring and a cage set up. I like that idea. Actually, one of the first things I wrote over at Creators was because the PBC lost their contract with Spike, and all the news about PBC being in trouble. I was like, if Bellator picks up PBC, whatever boxers they can, and calls it Bellator Boxing, then they would have a trifecta for the next Dynamite event if they ever hold one. But that's just me, dreaming about combat sports. But
right.
I'm glad you brought up that you went to a fight party, because one of the things we said in our reaction piece back a couple of months ago when they first announced the match between Mayweather and McGregor was, I said my brother actually listened to it, and I said because if you remember, Joseph asked me, am I going to order it? And I said, no, I'm not going to order it, and I'm not going to make an attempt to watch it, but I can be lured. If somebody has like food and beer, somebody can lure me out. My brother actually took that to heart, and it took him a little while to plan it, but like a couple of weeks, like the beginning of the month, he texted me and he's like, all right, I'm ready to lure you. And he got his girlfriend to order the fight. She had catering and stuff, so you mentioned how it brought people together. I mean, me and my brother don't hang out often because he works nights and I work days, during our regular jobs and stuff. So, but the thing about CompuBox, Dana White had said that at the post-fight press conference about the 111, and then I think it was Bloody Elbow wrote the article where they listed that he outlanded Pacquiao, Cotto, Mosley, and Hatton in 10 rounds, where they couldn't do in 12 rounds. So, like, people are actually bashing that number too. Like, for me, it's we said this when we did our reaction piece at the Frontproof Media YouTube channel. It's a no lose situation for both guys. Well, mainly McGregor, because look, he's still being viewed as some type of now he's like an ambassador for MMA at another sport where if you watch the broadcast, it's funny that you mentioned what you said about Mayweather too, because during like the post-fight broadcast on FS1, Dominic Cruz was praising McGregor for saying, thanks for making us guys look good. Now they can't say we can't hang in boxing. We actually were able. McGregor hung for 10 rounds when we had him. Yeah. I actually had the way it stopped. If you remember, I think I said 6 or 8 rounds. It stopped the way I predicted, with the ref jumping in and stopping it because of him taking too many shots, and he was obviously fatigued. Joseph called the fatigue. So,
I think that McGregor. I think that Floyd was a smaller guy, and there were points in the fight where he was getting walked down by Floyd, but Floyd wasn't able to cut off the ring well. But I think that McGregor, if he wanted to, I guess, I still think he should take, fights against lower level guys. But I think that if he wants to do this,
I don't think he wants to do it though.
He didn't seem. He kind of seemed a little I did it, but I think I'm ready to go back in the octagon. But having said that, I think that a fight between him and specifically Canelo Alvarez would probably be another one of those. Basically what I'm saying is, if they're ever going to have another MMA guy come to boxing again, it's going to be McGregor, and he'll probably do it against Canelo Alvarez.
Oh, really?
I think that that's a huge fight, and I think that, you know, one of the things about this fight that made it so divisive too is, you know, it didn't feel like it was for the fans, and you could tell by you know, the fact is that they didn't sell out the T-Mobile Arena. They had about 6,000 empty seats there, and, you know,
it was
good for them.
A little over 14,000 seats they sold.
Yeah, and good for them that, you know, they might have broken the gate for Mayweather-Pacquiao, but at the same time, if you broke the gate for Mayweather-Pacquiao and you sold like about 2,000 seats less than Mayweather-Pacquiao, you overpriced the tickets. I mean, and you know,
because you mentioned it, I actually have it on my notes that it was an $80 million live gate, and they did break the record for the pay-per-views for Mayweather-Pacquiao. So that's from the post-fight press conference anyway. Yeah, but you're right. You're right. They overpriced the tickets. That's a good point.
I don't know if I mean, you know, that Mayweather-Pacquiao pay-per-view figure of $4.6 million is just that's incredible. It would be incredible if Mayweather-McGregor were to get a higher number than that. I mean, $4.6 million at $100, give or take. You know, I'm assuming that not many people bought the standard definition at $90, but
but they had some issues too. So there's supposed to be some showtimes allegedly. I mean, I read today. I tweeted it actually after you and I communicated about doing this. So you got to check my Twitter feed. But MMA Payout published a couple of things that Showtime, with all the people, there's a lot of people. I think it was 2.9 million was the number of people that watched the fight at some live stream or some, like, you know,
illegal stream. And you know what, guys, ladies and gentlemen, whoever's listening out there, that fight was all over YouTube Sunday morning. All over, perfect HD quality copies. All over Facebook and all over YouTube. So I think most people saw the fight. But, you know, on the positive note, I will say this, though. In contrast to Mayweather-Pacquiao, where everybody kind of felt like boxing shit the bed, and nobody was happy after that fight. People were very vocal and outspoken about not ever ordering a fight again. After Mayweather-McGregor, more people were satisfied. Even today at work, you know, and this is a small sample size, but, you know, they of just casual fans just saying, hey, I enjoyed the fight. They felt it was an exciting fight. It wasn't a fight of the year. It's not going to be nominated for fight of the year. It'll probably be event of the year. But I think that, you know, if casual fans felt like they got their money's worth, then that's a positive too. Because you know, if Mayweather had gone out there, or even McGregor, you know, I still feel like, you know, boxing is a game of chess sometimes, and I think McGregor, maybe if he had moved his first 3 rounds to, I mean, he'd have to have, I think, better stamina and cardio, but
like he shouldn't have done all that output.
Yeah.
How many rounds? Because I had him winning the first 4 rounds. Did you have about the same?
I think I did have the first 4. In fact, but you know, it's funny, the people at the house the fight party I was at were so excited. I think that they gave McGregor like the first 7 rounds. So people were very excited about.
Oh wow, yeah. No,
you know, people were. Excited
we weren't doing that where I was at. Let me ask you this, because one of the things I said to my brother before it started, and my brother actually subscribes to this podcast on Anchor, so he might chime in once it's uploaded. But one of the things I said was, and if Mark, you do chime in on this, you know, add your 2 cents. Like I said to him, I said, you know, come main event time, McGregor's not just fighting Mayweather, he's fighting Mayweather, the boxing ref, and the 3 judges. Because I felt there was a little bias in the event leading up to like just the press conferences. You know, Mayweather dictated when they ended. You know, the format, everything was very like, you know, one-sided. If you remember the whole mic cutting fiasco. So I don't know. Did you agree with that? Especially when the ref was addressing the rules, he was looking right at McGregor only.
Yeah, like, I know. Robert.
So there's a meme up about it now. I put it up in Slack too. I'm sure you saw it by now, but it's like, you know, like it just seemed like when that was happening, I looked over at my brother and I said, "You see, it's already starting." But he actually didn't do that though.
It was a small little dig there. It was very funny, that video. Absolutely.
But so do you think? Did you feel like that was an issue? I feel like even though Bird did that, the ref, he still kind of like I found him yelling at Mayweather more for putting his head down than scolding McGregor for any of his rough.
You know what? That's something that and you know what? It happens in both sports and probably all sports where, you know, guys get away with things. You know, Mayweather is not supposed to, you know, duck his head under the other fighter's waist. And he does that a lot, and fighters of the past do that a lot. He gets away with that. And I think that McGregor was sidestepping him, and that's how he got behind Floyd sometimes as well. And that's why Floyd got hit with those little hammer fist punches in some rounds. But as far as, you know, it being, you know, a one-sided promotion, I agree. And Mayweather has done this, and he'll bring this up as if, you know, we're supposed to feel sad or sorry for him that Oscar De La Hoya, 10 years ago in 2007, he had to wear bigger gloves, 10-ounce gloves, and move up to 154. De La Hoya was a champion at 154. He was the much more popular fighter in 2007. So I think Floyd has a big ego, and he wanted to present that. But as far as the judges, I mean, you know what? If you look at the judges' scorecards from either, you know, Mayweather-Pacquiao, a judge having that 118-110, 10 rounds to 2, the Cotto fight, people having it 118-110, 119-109. The only time Mayweather hasn't gotten, you know, the way I like to put it is this way. If there's a close round, it's going to Mayweather. If nothing happens in the round, it's going to Mayweather. And that's how it's been for a while. I mean, you had one judge who had it 89-81 for Mayweather. To me, the clearest round is the first round. Clearest round, that's clearly McGregor's round. You can't argue that. And then the second round, I mean, you know, Mayweather isn't throwing punches, you know, and, you know, that's another way that you can outpoint Mayweather, you know, especially, you know, in that fight that night, you know, if McGregor, you know, possibly had the stamina, if he had the experience, which is probably the better thing that would have helped him more, is just to outthrow a guy who's 40 and hadn't been in the ring for 2 years. You know, his volume was very low. It was very low, especially in the first 6 rounds. But I say that, all of that to say, yes, I agree with you that Floyd Mayweather, when he says he's the A side, he means it, and he likes to strut his stuff, and it's not just in the promotion and the ring. It encompasses the whole event. And I think we saw that with this event.
Yeah, no, we definitely did see that. So I just want to see if me and my brother were alone in that. But the other thing I wanted to, because I had it. Remember, I told you about that Verdict app and how they did the scoring for that event. They usually do MMA, but me and my brother were using that, and we scored it pretty similar to what the broadcast was scoring, where they only had Mayweather up by 1 point because he won the later rounds after the 4 that I thought McGregor had. And I'm not being generous. I mean, because obviously that was all boxing people, and I forget that guy's name that scored it that way. But I had Mayweather up by only 1 point.
Yeah, I think that, you know, looking at the fight, you really only scored 9 rounds. So after 9 rounds, it sounds like, from what you told me, you gave McGregor the first 4, and then you gave Mayweather the last 5, 5 through 9. I think that's fine. I don't think that's a bad scorecard. I think Steve Farhood, who was on the Showtime telecast, I think that he did a good job. I think usually him and Harold Letterman, I think they both call fights fairly, in my opinion. The Showtime crew, I did notice, though, in watching the fight again, that they got into like a bit of an argument about Floyd Mayweather turning around, and then Paulie Malignaggi, who's been in the news lately. And I just want to say this for everybody listening out there. No, we don't want to see McGregor Malignaggi. We don't want to see it.
No.
Maybe
I'm sure you're not alone.
Maybe Paulie getting in the octagon. I wouldn't mind, but that's me. Maybe I'm a bit of a bloodthirsty ghoul, and I'm not a big fan of Malignaggi. So maybe I'm being a little bit biased there with that. But
did you see that talking about the broadcast crew? Did you see Teddy Atlas and whomever that other guy is? Teddy Atlas blew up at somebody at the end of the fight.
I did see him and I believe Stephen A. Smith from ESPN, First Take.
Yeah.
Loud, boisterous host. They were arguing that, and you know what's funny about that? He said, Alice was saying that to beat Marciano's record, which, you know what, if you want to ask me about that, we can get on that, the famed Rocky Marciano 49-0 record, and he said that Mayweather had to fight like him to beat McGregor, which means that had to come forward and, not fight off the back foot like he usually does. And Stephen A. Smith was kind of saying that he still thought he didn't look good. And I agree kind of with both of them. Mayweather did come forward and, he didn't fight, his, usual ultra defensive on the back foot fight. And he didn't look that good either to me. I thought that, if he had been in the ring with the other welterweight contenders, Errol Spence or Keith Thurman, he probably would have lost that night. If he was in the ring with Golovkin or Canelo, he might have lost that night. But he might not have fought that way either. I'll just preference that. But, I remember him, when you get Teddy Atlas and Stephen A. Smith together, they're two of the more louder, ego-driven personalities in sports, period. If any MMA fan out there wants to see Teddy Atlas, just type him in on your Google machine, your YouTube, and look up him and type in fireman, and there's a compilation of him talking about being a fireman to one of his fighters in the corner. It's pretty hilarious, and he's known for being very boisterous in the corner. Even when he was training Michael Moore back in the 90s, there was a round where Moore was trying to come back to the corner, and Atlas was sitting in the corner for him, saying, hey, "You're not doing what I'm telling you to do, and I might as well sit down." And he's very when the camera's on, he knows what he's doing. Is what I'll say.
Mm. So did you so you were at a fight party, so I don't know how long you stayed. I recorded the post-fight, like the presser and the stuff that FS1 did. So, like I had mentioned, Dominic Cruz, but Daniel Jacobs, like his first reaction before he made it a little more diplomatic before they closed the broadcast. But his first reaction was he felt that as for Mayweather, because he was speaking for the boxing side.
Right.
He was like Mayweather should have finished him. In the rounds that we had predicted over at Frontproof Media, like fourth round, sixth round, the finish we got, but earlier. So he seemed a little bothered that Mayweather didn't do it, that he did it so late versus earlier, and he was like, as a boxer, I'm bothered by that, but still props to him for getting his 50-0. But were you bothered at all that the finish didn't come sooner? I mean, we did kind of call it earlier than 10.
Not at all, man. I mean, and I say this, listen, man, if I think that, the idea of MMA versus boxing is kind of silly to me. It's, if MMA is the toughest sport in the world, the second toughest is boxing. You know what I mean? They're both dangerous sports where people can get hurt and people have died, competing in both sports.
Yeah.
There's got to be a respect level there. And, anybody that gets in a boxing ring and anybody gets in a cage, they're both risking their lives. And I think that, if we're going to do this, then, okay, well, James Toney, when he fought Randy Couture, he got beaten, what was it, a minute or 90 seconds or so. Randy Couture picked his foot, then choked him out. But, James Toney was in his 40s, older and out of shape. It doesn't have an effect on either sport, really. I mean,
no, and that's, I'm glad you're saying that, because that's one of the things that came up a lot, and me and my brother talked about it. It's coming up, obviously. It came up all the way up and through, and it seems to have died down now that it's over. But I actually, Monday, Ariel Helwani had the MMA Hour, and he had De La Hoya on, and he said, it's boxing versus MMA. And I'm pretty sure he ignored my comment when I typed it, but I said, stop it. It's not boxing versus MMA. This was a boxing match. Like you said, what I've been saying all the time, it was a boxing match with two guys that were licensed to box, and the experienced boxer won. It's not boxing versus MMA. If you're going to do a style versus style thing like that, it's been done already. UFC 1 did that. We're not doing that anymore. So I think the whole thing is stupid. And one of the things that I like about talking with all the guys at Frontproof Media is because as an MMA guy talking to boxing guys, we can always have discussions like the one we're having now, where no one's getting heated. We're just kind of like, talking about it, having a conversation. You speak for your side, I speak for mine, and there's nothing like that's getting the other one riled up. I don't know why people are getting so riled up about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, people are taking it a little bit too personally. But, as far as Daniel Jacobs, hey, what can I say, Daniel? Maybe McGregor was tougher than Floyd expected, and Floyd was 40. I mean, he got the win. I mean, he got the win. At the end of the day, I mean, so what? I mean, it was
not bad for a 40-year-old guy.
Yeah, I mean, if we were gonna judge this fight basically, and its parameters were, okay, if it goes all 6, then McGregor wins. Then make it a 6-round fight or an 8-round fight. If we're gonna, it's ridiculous. And vice versa. If Mayweather had went into an octagon, if he survives 2 rounds, like is it going to be some amazing amazingness that McGregor didn't finish him in 90 seconds? It's as long as he won, and his career's over now, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm a little bit. I'm happy it's over. I think that his career was based on just himself, and that's fine. He didn't want to pass the torch over to any of the younger boxers today. And I think that would have been much bigger. But he didn't have to do that. That's not something that you're required to do. It's something that's
and he's good at 50 is a nice even number to retire with.
And I want to say this about that. The record for that is at heavyweight. It's at heavyweight, and it started with Larry Holmes back in the 80s. He was 48-0, and then he lost a close fight, and people began putting this Rocky Marciano curse. But people at the lighter weights, such as Julio Cesar Chavez, went 87-0 before the loss. Guys like Willie Pep, may have lost a fight in their first 40, and then they went on to win 80 straight fights. This record of 49-0 is completely overblown, especially for guys below heavyweight. I mean, at the end of the day, Floyd Mayweather is one of I believe, 6 male boxers that have won titles in 5 weight divisions. And that's an accomplishment. You know, it's literally like a handful of guys. And the fact that he's 50-0 now, that's also great. He's going to go in the Hall of Fame, first ballot. As soon as his name is on there, he's going to get voted in. But the idea that this record is somehow, you know, some immaculate prize that hasn't been done. I mean, guys at the lighter weights have gone on streaks much bigger than 49-0 and much bigger than 50-0. I mean, it's happened in the sport before, and you know, I think that he's a victim of, you know, of today. You know, it's sort of like a movie selling out and selling a lot of money, but you're not counting for things like inflation and things like that from back in the day either. So, you know, it's a nice little publicity stunt, but I think, you know, the real boxing fans and fight fans in general, you know, just do a little research, and you'll find that while 50-0 is awesome, okay, that's a great streak, but it's not. It's been done before, and it's been done and almost multiplied, but twice before in boxing. So it's not the end all be all. Yeah,
that's good. I'm glad you're putting that out there, because, you know, when something becomes a focal point the way that fight was, you know, people tend to forget other things. You know, like a lot of people, when I had Joseph on last week about the 8-ounce glove thing, I mean, he had to point out from your article, actually, about how many times 8-ounce gloves were used by Mayweather. So that's why I had to get you guys on, man, because there's a lot of stuff out there that people are just forgetting about. But you know what the thing of all this is like, it brought in, you had mentioned in our reaction piece, like, it's going to bring in a lot of casuals. Well, their money's been spent on the pay-per-views, tickets, whatever, and now we put this information out there. But do you think this brought in more fans for boxing, or is it just a one and done?
You know what? I do. I think that well, what I'm hoping that it did is that I hope that within the next coming weeks, I should say, for the upcoming Canelo Alvarez-Gennady Golovkin fight, I think that what it'll do is if someone has the fight, or if someone, you know, if they're showing it like at a wing house or a bar, maybe more people will be inclined to stay and watch it, you know, just because, you know, they just saw a fight that, you know, maybe a lot of people thought, you know, was pretty good, you know, maybe it lived up to somewhat of the hype for them. I don't think it's going to kill any of the steam. I know De La Hoya seemed upset that this happening before his event with Triple G and Golovkin was pulling steam. Right. But I think if anything, it'll add to it. Yeah, you know what? I think one of the things I think that, you know, HBO recently on Saturday, you know, they had a telecast that night where Miguel Cotto fought, and they put out the 24/7, which is the HBO kind of you know, I guess I would call it. I think it's like a little mini documentary on the fight, and they usually do about like the UFC Embedded. Exactly, and it was like 30 minutes. They used to do about 4 episodes for fights, and you know, they're only doing 2 for this one. The next episode airs in 2 weeks on September 9th. I think that they need to step up too. I think HBO is, you know, if you look at their app, HBO Go or HBO Now, you know, they don't do live streaming on the app. No, that's the next move for everybody. And I think that another thing HBO doesn't do, they have a vast library of boxing matches, and they don't put any of it out. And, you know, the DVD age is over, you know, where the mid to late, actually, well, maybe I should say the early to mid 2000s, you know, if you look at the UFC and the WWE, you know, a lot of their revenue was streamed by that boom of DVDs where you could just put out collector set. And I remember seeing, you know, at Blockbuster, UFC Knockout, you know, the best UFC knockouts. You know, they never did any of that. And I think that they would be remiss, since they missed out on that. I think they would be remiss to miss out kind of on the streaming here. I think it's good that they put it out on YouTube. That's great that they did that. You know, and it's on frontproofmedia.com. I put it out there on the website. But, you know, HBO, I think needs to help Golden Boy and really step up the amount of publicity for this fight. This is a great fight.
That's one thing I always say to you guys. I feel like the only promoter out there that has that in mind is Oscar De La Hoya as far as putting on fights and keeping up with the Joneses, because all these other old guys, like you got Bob Arum and the Showtime folk, it's like the not for nothing, they even said that at the post-fight presser. They asked Dana White, you had your digital team help promote this event. Do you think that they'll catch on? And Dana White was like, they're going to do whatever they're going to do, but it's still it's a solid point to make. Like, these things in our hands that everyone's got their heads tilted into every day. People can stream that fight, like that fight app, fight.tv or whatever it is. It's pro wrestling, MMA, boxing. They've added grappling on there. And a lot of the undercard for Golden Boy stuff is been streaming on there too. So I think he's the only one that gets it. And you're right, man. HBO definitely. You got a lot of old folks over there that hate on other sports, but it's like they're hating on technology too, and you can't do that. It's 2017. So.
Yeah, you're right, man. I mean, I'm glad with last week's announcement of Top Rank's 4-year deal with ESPN. Hopefully that means that they'll kind of step up their content with their own application and their own website. I think that, possibly the plan is for them to do their own little kind of version of, I guess I keep bringing this up, is the Fight Pass or WWE Network, hopefully. Because, Top Rank has they've been around for a long time. They have a vast library of fights, too. So they certainly have the capability of doing that themselves. So I think that, making the move from Bob Arum to the president, Todd Dubuff, is going to be good for Top Rank. I think that's going to be a positive thing. But these promoters, as far as boxing is concerned, they need to work together. This is how they're going to be judged here. Guys need to step up and get maybe their fighters to step up to move across these promotional lines to make these fights happen. Or, deals like this aren't going to work. And, I understand HBO. They are more of a entertainment company. Their main focus is things like Game of Thrones and Ballers versus boxing. So I think that's why I completely understand Top Rank leaving. But, what's funny about this, getting fights on free TV, is that I can't stand commercials. So I actually prefer the fights on HBO because I like the fact that you kind of get this, you can curse on there, you can, things can happen, there's no commercials, you get in between the corners. I like all of that. But I guess, at an extra $15 a month, it seemed they're kind of cutting an audience, a large chunk of the general public out of the audience. But that's just my 2 cents on that. But hopefully these guys get with the times, because I'll tell you this, looking at all the material that we posted from Mayweather-McGregor, the UFC always had updates the fastest. So things like Mayweather-McGregor media recap, Mayweather-McGregor press conference recap from the four press tour stops. They had recaps of all 4. Then Showtime did, and Showtime is actually stepping up too. Showtime, they had the All Access. They put them all online. They have other shows online as well. The Ring Resume for Mayweather. So Showtime has definitely stepped up the last few years. Definitely ahead of HBO now. But the UFC, and I didn't even notice all of those, that there was, the Conor McGregor vlog, then the Dana White vlog. They are really stepping up, and honestly, they have hired really good people for their media, as far as doing interviews with people.
They got a good digital team.
Job. I thought they did a great job, covering Mayweather-McGregor. Yeah,
they did, man. I mean, it was having all the decision makers from the Showtime side, they weren't running it, but they were helping on the digital and the promotion, and obviously it was noticed not just by you, but by a lot of folks. So, all right, man. Well, I think that's good for. We can finally put this event to bed and get back to our regularly scheduled boxing and MMA.
Right.
So, thank you, Hector. I really appreciate it. Where you? I don't know where you're most active on social. Mr. Hector Franco. I know you're at Mr._Franco, right, on Twitter. Where can folks follow you?
Mr. Hector_Franco at Twitter. You can also follow me at Hectorgram on Instagram, and also just Hector Franco. Yeah, Hectorgram, and also just Hector Franco on Facebook. You can follow me there, and the best place to check out